that to the presiding officers because it's clear that the time is now congested. However, it's very clear that for us as the leadership of the ANC, we can no longer wait beyond today. We don't want to keep South Africa waiting. If President Zuma will at some point respond, he will respond, but we can't continue waiting. The decision has been taken, it must be implemented. So my message to the caucus today was just that they must now proceed with the parliamentary process, and the chief whip should be able to outline that to you if you do need to know more than that. But that's really all we can tell you for now.
I think it's only fair that before you take questions, Comrade Manga, that we say what is then our way forward. You will know that there is a motion of no confidence on the table by the economic freedom fighters. What is an option to the African National Congress would have been ideally to present our own motion. Ideally, that would have been what we would have appreciated and what we would have loved. But it is not possible with a motion that is there in the system. Therefore, our rules allow for an amendment of any motion. That's what is then before us as the African National Congress, to effect some amendments, not to the substance of the motion. The substance of the motion, which is the basically motion that will result in the president going, that will still remain. It is the reasoning. As ANC, we will put our own reasoning arising from the 54th conference, of course also arising from the discussions that have ensued in the National Executive Committee for over 13 hours. So we will effect that into the amendments, and then vote after deliberations and debate, vote on that motion tomorrow. That's what we are preparing for. Yes, Caucus has discussed this matter. We will still be having caucus tomorrow, basically to do the logistics. And the logistics are who's speaking and who is in the lineup, and basically what is the content, because some people are now working on the content of our amendment. What is the content of our amendment? But as you will also know, we will also be approaching the other parties in Parliament, including the party that has put forward this motion of no confidence, the economic freedom fighters. We'll also be approaching them. We have approached them, by the way, because ideally, as we have said, it would have been nice for them to withdraw, but they steadily refused to withdraw their motion. That's why we are now sitting with the next available option to the ANC, which is to amend that motion, but not the substance of that motion. So that's what we're looking at, and it's very likely, depending on the availability of the Chief Justice, that we might as well tomorrow also, after we have voted for the removal of the President of the Republic, probably, depending on the availability of Chief Justice, also elect a new president. So that is possible. If it's not possible tomorrow, indeed Friday is still a day, because you see, we would like to create certainty in the work of Parliament. We wouldn't like to have people guessing what are we going to do next. You will know that there are many items before Parliament that do not need any disturbance. One of those items, amongst others, is certainty that the budget statement will indeed come in before later than the second week of March. So the sooner all these matters are attended to, the better, so that the budget can come in. But before the budget comes in, we will also want, as the African National Congress, the program, the political program of our government to also be put forward to the nation. That is what is normally referred to as the state of the nation. So we would like the incoming president, without delay, to also put forward to the nation what is this political program that the ANC will be pursuing this year, arising from our 54th conference, arising from our January 8th statement, and indeed arising from our sentiment of renewing and ensuring that there is hope amongst our people. So that statement needs to come before South Africa. We are working towards this ideal: a SONA, election of a president, and motion of no confidence on the sitting current president of the Republic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TG and Chief Whip. We'll take the first round of hands. I'm going to request that we please don't ask repetitive questions. If your colleague has already asked the question, it's okay to say, I've been covered. We'll start with the SABC.
Maybe take 5 at a time.
Okay. We'll take 5 at a time, so we'll the side first, and then after that we'll move to the side of the room. So we will have the SABC, we'll have EWN, we'll have ENCA, then we'll have Yan used to be with Sunday Times. I'm not sure if you're still with the Sunday Times. Then we'll have the Sunday Times, and then we'll come to the side of the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TG. It's Manilisi from the SABC. Just 2 questions. Number 1, were there any objections to your presentation, especially with regard to this motion of no confidence tomorrow? Number 2, is the motion of no confidence going to continue even if President Zuma resigns at 12 o'clock at midnight?
I'm covered by the second question.
Thank you so much. If we can just, Comrade Ubawalo has provided leadership. Comrade, are you covered as well?
I have a question. Chief Whip, has there been any negotiations with the EFF? Have you discussed this amendment with them? If so, are there any concessions that you've had to make to the EFF in order for you to make these amendments? And secondly, just a point of procedure in the swearing in of the President, could the Chief Justice delegate a judge here in the Western Cape to conduct that swearing in of the new President?
Thank you, Yan.
Yan, for Pretoria again. So I've got 2 questions. The first is, could you perhaps, and I know it's tough, but I mean, Mr. Mashatile, you gave such a neat understanding of what you told Caucus. So it was quite a long meeting. Was there a bit of discussion? Was it a very amicable and friendly caucus? Or was it perhaps a bit more complicated? The second question that I have is the matter of whether there needs to be a caretaker president. It seems as though the ANC has changed tack from the 2008 happenings, in that you seem to think that now the 16 months to the next election does not constitute a term. Have you taken strong legal advice, and would it not be safer for the party president, if he were to become the president of the country, to perhaps just get legal certainty from the Constitutional Court, for instance? And then finally, I just wanted to know whether the the motion of no confidence will go ahead. I'm actually being covered. Thank you, Ballot, for that leadership.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip. Then we'll go with the TG.
Let's naturally, on the question whether we have had any approaches to the EFF, there is no way that we would have wished for them to withdraw their motion without us approaching them. Yes, there were approaches to the EFF, and as I've said, they flatly refused. Where will we negotiate with them on the amendment? No. The amendments do not need any negotiations. We just, as long as they are in line with the rules of Parliament, as long as the amendments, of course, if the amendments wants to change substantively the motion, then those amendments are not acceptable in terms of our rules of Parliament. So no, we are not negotiating with the EFF the amendments. We will put the amendments as the African National Congress. Any delegation of another judge to swear in and the president, well, those are details that the Parliament will be pursuing. That's why we are saying the issue of electing the new president is premised on the availability of the Chief Justice. So if the Chief Justice is available, or it is allowable the Chief Justice to delegate anybody else tomorrow, who will be the happiest. So that at least this chapter is closed and you have a new president, and indeed that new president can then deliver the State of the Nation address. I can assure you, if we were to elect the new president tomorrow, after the vote of no confidence, I can assure you that we will, as ANC, be firm that the State of the Nation address be held on Friday. We are a working parliament, and we'll also be firm that the debate on the State of the Nation address be held on Monday. We will also be firm that the president, the new president, responds on Tuesday. Of course, we'll also be firm, because we also wouldn't like to disturb any matters of the budget. We will be firm that a budget statement be put next week. We will be firm that a budget statement be put next week. If there is no need for a motion of no confidence for whatever reason tomorrow, if the reason that gave rise to a motion of no confidence disappears, then obviously you will have the Minister of Finance, current, still delivering the budget statement next week on the 21st. That's what we'll be firm on as the African National Congress. But of course, if the motion of no confidence comes in tomorrow and the President of the Republic is voted out of office, you know what are the consequences thereof. The consequences thereof is that indeed, even the cabinet also falls off, then it's a different ball game altogether. But that's how determined we are to ensure that the work of Parliament is back on track and the work of our government is back on track. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Why was the meeting so long? It wasn't long, actually. But I had to brief the ANC caucus right from the beginning so that they don't rely on what they read in the newspapers or what they see on TV. So I had to start back from the time of conference, what happened, all the meeting we had with the president, meeting that President Ramaphosa had with President Zuma. So I needed to really go through the chronology of events. Was there any objection from the caucus? None whatsoever. I think, in fact, if anything, comrades were waiting for what is the next move. We have now indicated to them that they must now start with the parliamentary process, as the Chief Whip is saying that by tomorrow a motion of no confidence will be tabled, debated, to remove the President of the Republic. Then all other processes kick in. Of course, as the Chief Whip indicates, that if it goes through that process, it means the government will dissolve, Speaker will be acting President. The Constitution allow up until perhaps, I think, maximum of 30 days. But we want to do things quicker, as the Chief Whip is saying. If the Chief Justice agrees to then swear in the new President earlier, the better, so that all the processes can be moved within next week, if possible, including the fact that we don't want to push the budget back. What happens if President Zuma resigns tonight? It means by tomorrow, when the Assembly sits, there is no president. So why debate a motion? It will fall off. But the ball is in his court. We are moving ahead. He'll find us on the way if he resigns, because we can't wait. I think it's not fair to South Africans. It's not fair to the ANC. It's not fair to anybody, because everything almost have come to a standstill. So we need to be able to move. So I think our processes are in motion now, and it's all system go. We are starting a new era. I did say to the caucus that the conference of the ANC have created a new hope to our people. Our people want to see change. They want to see the new leadership taking over the management, not only of the ANC, but of the affairs of the state, to be able to deal with all the challenges that have been facing us. We want to go on with renewal. We want to make sure that we focus on the things that our people have been asking us to do. The President has been saying that again and again. We want to deal with problems of corruptions in state institutions, in government. We want to focus on building the economy. President has spoken about economic recovery. We want to engage with investors and make sure that we grow this economy, we create jobs, we fight poverty, and make sure that we deal with the challenges our people are facing. So we don't have time to be bickering about who should be president. We have elected President Ramaphosa. He should be the president. So all is clear. That's how we move ahead.
Maybe just to add, if there is a resignation code, we still have a sitting. If the Chief Justice is available or is delegated somebody, we still elect a new president. So there is no crisis at all. So we are fine. We have our ducks on the row.
Thank you, Chief Whip. We'll take 5 hands from the side. We'll start with Paul at the back, and then we'll have Mail and Guardian, we'll have News 24, Daily Maverick, and we'll end here with Reuters, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chief Whip. Paul Beckyard from Bloomberg. First of all, have you issued a notice to the opposition parties calling for a sitting for tomorrow? Secondly, when will you announce the changes or the amendments to the rationale behind the motion of no confidence? And then when can you introduce those during the motion of of no confidence debate? Is it before or towards the end of the debate? Thank you.
Afternoon, it's Govan Littles from the Mail and Guardian newspaper. I'd just like to get some clarity. So the ANC is okay with the motion of no confidence being brought in the name of the EFF, or are you seeking to amend that? And then secondly...
Have you just come in? Have you just come in?
No, sir.
Oh.
Secondly, I'd just like to find out
to
whether
repeat.
there's an expectation that the cabinet ministers would also resign if the president issues his resignation. What exactly happens?
No, they don't resign when he resigns.
Afternoon, Chief Whip and TG. Paul Herman from News 24. I just have a few questions. I'd like to know, has it been communicated at all whether the motion will be conducted by a secret ballot, the motion of no confidence, that is? My second question is, has the Speaker said anything about realistically holding a SONA on Friday if things go according to plan? Logistically, can that be done? At the press briefing yesterday, they said there was no deadline given, and today we hear there is a deadline. Is that new information, or we'd just like to know was there an error communicated there? And lastly, as I understand it, in the event of a motion of no confidence, the President is then legally ordered to hand in his resignation letter. What happens in the event that even in that instance he decides not to do it? Legally, where do we stand if he chooses to defy Parliament's motion? Thank you.
Just a very, very quick clarification, Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. In terms of what section of the Constitution are you proceeding to elect a new president in all cases tomorrow or sometime later? Does that mean that the ANC will not make use of Section 90 in terms of the acting president provision that is available? And thank you.
Thanks, Wendell from Reuters. Just a point of clarity. Did you guys get confirmation from the Speaker that this motion of no confidence in the ANC's amendment will go ahead tomorrow? The second matter is, if I can couch this in the language of your alliance partner, Caucus. Has the negotiations or the discussions of the transition with President Zuma, your sense that he is negotiating mala fide, as it were, that he's not to be trusted, that he's at his word, and that he's been he's been hiding and dodging and dancing? Would that be a fair assessment? And at this stage, has he given a categorical indication from his side that he has no intention of resigning? Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Whip?
You will know that there is, what's the time now? There is a Chief Whip's forum at 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
What's the time?
it's
One, we got hours for.
Oh,
No, we
still
don't.
a
No, we don't.
The likelihood of all of us agreeing to a sitting tomorrow is very, very good in this meeting we're having at 2 o'clock. But you'll also know, as I do, that the economic freedom fighters have requested the Speaker to bring forward their motion. Now, I can't speak on behalf of the Speaker. You can ask the Speaker whether she will bring forward. That is her domain. I will not speak to that. I'm not the Speaker. What provision are we using in the Constitution to elect a president? The very same provisions that are used every day to elect a president. Are we not using Section 90? Section 90 is when you have not had an opportunity to elect a president, then the deputy acts as president, or any member of cabinet, alternatively even the Speaker. So we are saying, let's move fast and with certainty in electing a president as the Constitution of the Republic allows us to, and in terms of the Constitution of the Republic. So the amendments we'll be making, by the way, as the ANC, are amendments that do not detract from the essence of the motion of no confidence in the President of the Republic. We are bringing in the ANC reasons why the president must be removed. It looks like we are all in agreement that the president must go. All parties similarly are in agreement, including the ANC. That's why the Treasurer General was here to tell Caucus that the NEC has recalled President Zuma. And in the statement of the NEC read by the Secretary General, you will know that towards this end, all parliamentary processes will ensue. So we are in keeping with what the NEC has decided on this particular matter. I will leave defiance matters to the Treasurer General.
Well, somebody was asking earlier whether the president is negotiating in bad faith. There are no negotiations. Perhaps the right word to use is that there were discussions between the leadership of the ANC, the officials, and President Zuma to find an exit for him that we use the word, we don't want him to be humiliated, want him to exit properly. So those were the discussions rather than negotiations. He has now chosen not to agree to leave, so the NEC was left with no option but to recall him. The parliamentary process are now ensuing. Should he resign, what happens to the cabinet? If President resigns, the cabinet stays. Deputy President takes over, and we continue. However, if he doesn't resign and is recalled, then the whole cabinet goes. That's the difference. In that case, the Speaker will then be acting President until a new President is elected. I think the Chief Whip has answered the question that, yes, it's not a problem if the President of the Republic resigns, Deputy President will then be acting President until a new President is elected. And as the Chief Whip is saying, we could short-circuit that by ensuring that that election is brought forward much quicker. You don't even have to wait a day. Can President Zuma defy Parliament? It's no longer possible. Remember, once you have a motion that removes you, you are gone. There is no room for defy. That's the case. Maybe the question should be, can he defy the ANC? Because the ANC has recalled him, he has not resigned, so maybe that question belongs there, not in Parliament. In Parliament, the process is, once Parliament decides, that's the decision. The last question, I think Chief Whip has covered the issue of, that was the issue, maybe you should deal with that, secret ballot.
Yes. Well, the question of a secret ballot, by the way, is the onus on the Speaker, whether the vote here in Parliament is through secret or open ballot. As ANC, we have no qualms with any. Bring it on. Can we have a sauna on Friday? By the way, again, if all things happen in the way we plan them to happen, yes, a sauna on Friday is possible. A sauna on Friday at 19 hours is possible. And that's what the Speaker has been pronouncing, and all of us are in agreement that yes, a sauna Friday evening and a debate on Monday is possible, depending whether there has been a resignation or there has been a vote of no confidence. Then the issue of the budget can also be looked at next week. But generally, we are quite confident that all these things can happen, and they must happen. We need to give certainty to people of South Africa. And indeed, there has been a lot of reportage that indicated that our country is in a state of limbo. We cannot continue to be in a state of limbo. We need to bring certainty that yes, we are now on course, there is government is working and parliament is working. We cannot afford to have parliament also in a state of limbo. Parliament will have a plenary session tomorrow.
Thank you. No, Wendell. No. Can we please behave ourselves, colleagues, please? We are going to take 3 questions from people who haven't asked a question. It will be Andy Siwe, it will be Lulama at the back, and Annika at the back, and then we are done. Andy Siwe.
I'm still Martina from City Press. Treasurer General of the ANC, you speak of resignation and a recall, and you say the cabinet does resign and leave if it is a recall. Yeah. Okay, but I mean there's no recall in the Constitution.
Vote of no confidence.
In the Constitution it says if the president is removed through a vote of no confidence, all of them leave.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted clarity on that. But also, don't you think as the leadership of the ANC you owe this country and the people of this country an apology for the mess that you've seen over the past 10 days or 2 weeks?
10 days.
Especially, Jackson, looking at the role you've played as the caucus of the ANC over the past few years, defending the president to a point that you find yourself in this situation today. Don't you think you owe us, as South Africans, some explanation beyond what you've been telling us? Thank you.
Lulama?
Lulama Maja, SABC. Treasurer General, you've recalled the president. There has been media reports about he's asking for amnesty and security around certain issues and his court cases. What's the position of the ANC on that? Are you giving him amnesty? Is he going to be prosecuted and face the charges? Secondly, to both of you, who we know you want ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the country, and who is going to be his deputy? Thank you very much.
Annika, last question.
Thank you very much. Annika Larson from ENCA. Question for both of you, please. New cabinet appointments. How soon do you see those happening? Because if the budget is still set down for the 21st, there could be, and perhaps you can confirm this, a new finance minister.
Thank you, colleagues. As I said, that will be the last round of questions. The TG and the Chief Whip will respond. Thank you.
I'll just deal with those questions that are not difficult. Leave the difficult one to the Treasurer General. The Makinana, the fact of the matter is that the African National Congress has recalled President Zuma. The caucus of the ANC is acting on the basis of this recall that the ANC has effected. Could we done other things differently? It's something that perhaps we could look at as we move forward. It's something that we could look at, but where we stand now, the leadership of the ANC, indeed informed by its wisdom, informed by its willingness to serve the people of this country, has decided to recall President Zuma. And I believe that was in the best interest, not only of the ANC, not only of Parliament, but also of our country. That's what we can say in answer to your question.
I was not quite sure what you meant by the mess of 10 days. Or perhaps you're saying that we were delayed.
Well, Gigi, there was supposed to be a song on Thursday last week. They are
okay. Oh, I see. Okay. No, obviously we should apologize to all people who have been inconvenienced. Remember that we had planned to proceed as planned with SONA until we had this challenge. Of course, we didn't want to inconvenience anybody, but you can see that we're now moving with speed, take into account that there should be certainty around these issues. There was a question about who is going to be deputy
President.
The president. That matter has not been discussed by the president of the ANC and the leadership of the ANC, so it will come at a later stage. I think the most pressing issue is that we need to get President Ramaphosa elected as president, and everything will flow from that. Obviously, issues of the new cabinet, etc., those are issues that the president deals with once elected. If there's a need to change anybody, we can't deal with that now. But I think where we are now, the certainty is that the chief whip is going to a meeting at 2. He will then impress upon all parties about the need to move ahead with the sitting tomorrow. Hoping everybody will agree, and hopingly the presiding officers will find it possible. If it is just the National Assembly, so it's not a joint sitting, so the Speaker of the National Assembly will then look at the possibility of proceeding. Many members of Parliament are already around Cape Town, because Parliament is in a working session, so it's not like they'll be coming from very far. So we should be able to proceed. The last question was, are we prepared to give amnesty? President Zuma has not asked for any of those things. He has not asked for us to pay his legal fees. He has not asked for amnesty. None of those. And let me say that as the ANC, obviously, we don't deal with those issues of amnesty and so on. Those are constitutional and legal matters that are in the purview of Parliament and are dealt with there. So there were no such discussion between us and President Zuma.
Thank you, TG. Colleagues, that...
I don't know what was that question about the budget, because we have assured colleagues here that there are timelines that we are supposed to adhere to in terms of the budget statement. We will not, no matter what happens, we will not be outside of those timelines that are regulated as it relates to the budget. So we are saying that with the budget, as we stand now, we have a budget that is scheduled, budget speech and statement that is scheduled for the 21st of February. That has not changed. That has not been postponed. You know, there is a buzzword in South Africa these few days, postponement. The budget has not been postponed. Now, if there were to be circumstances that were to give rise to the postponement of the budget, including a vote of no confidence, indeed, as ANC, we will ensure that the second week of March does not come and go without the budget having been put before the people of South Africa. So that is an assurance that we give. But from where we are seated, we still have a budget on the 21st. Of course, that can only be disturbed by a vote of no confidence tomorrow. That can disturb that certainty. But of course, the assurance we gave is that we will also be moving with speed. That's why we're saying we must put in place a precedent immediately. And it will be up to the president to put in place a cabinet immediately after the vote of no confidence, so that we don't disturb all these processes of budget statements and related matters.
Thank you very much, colleagues. As you said, that was the last and final round. As you know, that the Chief Whip does have a meeting in 45 minutes in this very same venue. So we would really appreciate it if we can clear the venue as soon as possible in preparation for the Chief Whip's forum at 2 p.m. Thank you very much.